Episode 10, The Sinner. The familiar words turned the solid floor into quicksand. Her consciousness swayed softly, her vision lost focus for a moment. "What are you doing here, you sly fox?" Audrey tried to read something, anything, in his glassy gaze, but found only the reflection of her own fear. It seemed as if this feeling had always been with her, which was why its sudden appearance did not surprise her. What was surprising was how long she had managed to ignore it. "Malik, I'm sorry, Her voice was shaking so much she had to swallow the end of her sentence. Malik prompted her. "Got lost?" Audrey didn't know what to say. The words stuck to her tongue dry with anxiety. The amulet continued to burn. Cassiel's voice pounded in her head, urging her to run. "Malik." Audrey tried to step away from the table, but his gaze pinned her in place. "If you like it here so much, you can stay." The shape of the hollow object behind him, so reminiscent of a sarcophagus, suddenly took on an even more ominous form. Audrey couldn't understand why everything had taken such a turn, or why the shadows had darkened so quickly. "Is everything all right here?" The familiar voice rang out across the room like salvation. Audrey quickly darted away from Malik. He didn't try to stop her. "Everything is fine, Phil. Audrey found the papers I had been collecting from Mikhail. Your evaluator is very curious and quite impatient." Phil clearly wasn't reassured by his answer. She asked again. "Audrey?" The amulet finally cooled, quieting down beside her immortal colleague. "Phil..." I heard a voice. It led me here. Given your profession, you should be a little more skeptical about hearing voices in your head. You really shouldn't follow them so fervently. There's no one here but us. I'll call a cab, then." For a moment, Audrey thought Malik wasn't going to let her leave. He didn't take his gaze off her, and as he said slowly, "Is it already time to say goodbye?" Phil responded firmly. "It is." His smile was artificial, but Audrey was just happy to see any expression at all. She just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. "In that case, see you soon, Audrey." Malik left his guests in the reception room, signing a backlog of work. The receptionist didn't come out to see them off either. Audrey began to examine the reception desk out of boredom. She noticed the letter Mikhail had given Phil to exchange for the list. Did Malik forget about it? Maybe I should take it. After the suspicious discoveries in his office, leaving Malik with any information about Astrea, Mikhail didn't feel right to her. She waited for Phil to turn away, then discreetly pocketed the envelope. "I'll give it to Mikhail later, or read it myself." "You will have the opportunity to decide what to do with the letter." Phil finally put her phone away. She handed Audrey the list that Malik had probably given her. "Give this to Mikhail." "Aren't you coming with me?" Phil shook her head impatiently. "Let Mikhail cool down first." Audrey was quite sure that the Archangel would have pulled himself together by now, but she didn't argue. When the taxi arrived, she said goodbye to her colleague and returned to Astrea alone. As soon as she arrived at the agency, Audrey went straight to him. "I always felt that there was something wrong with Malik, and clearly wasn't mistaken." Audrey listened for voices at the door and heard none, so she knocked. He responded immediately and invited her in. Audrey finally relaxed as she entered the office, which now felt so familiar. The Archangel irradiated safety. It filled every inch of the space inside and out. "Is something wrong?" Audrey asked herself once more if she was sure of how she felt about Malik. Her hand instinctively moved to her chest and clutched the amulet. Malik threatened me, and there's no doubt about that. Audrey took a deep breath and stepped closer to him. Mikhail, I think Malik is connected to the beast, and I have proof. In his office, I found the personal files of Philip Moore and even my father. There were some writings with the symbol of the beast. He's clearly more interested in all of this than he lets on. Skepticism flashed across his face, the exact reaction Audrey had feared. We checked his memories. They're clean. Yes, he's a bit eccentric for a mortal, but there was nothing suspicious in his mind. Audrey didn't want to sound offended, but her voice still cracked with reproach. Don't you know how to erase memories? Then we'd notice the gaps. Her confidence wavered with each passing second, but she refused to back down. No, I know what I'm saying. He threatened me. The amulet Cassiel gave me heated up when Malik saw me near his desk. And if it wasn't for Fel, I could have been forced to stay in his office in that coffin or whatever that thing was. He frowned. Audrey clung to the opportunity. What if Malik isn't human? What if memories can be replaced or hidden instead of erased? His voice sounded slightly uncertain. Theoretically, it's possible. And practically? Practically, no one has known where to find the stones that concealed consciousness for thousands of years. So that means it's possible that Malik is not just our informant. At the very least, did Fel stay with him? Yes. She didn't like his last question. I don't want to drag Fel into this. Besides, Audrey, his energy is no different than a human's. Her troubling thoughts made her hands tremble slightly as she handed her phone to Mikhail. There's a picture I found on his desk. It only took him one glance to understand what was in front of her. The book they had sought for so long was practically within his grasp, yet it remained so far out of reach. It felt like a taunt. In a house full of immortals, such a significant clue was found by a mere mortal who stumbled upon it by chance. And now the mortal was staring at him with wide eyes, unaware of the sheer importance of the information she had given him. Show me what you saw. He wasn't asking. He was demanding. The expression on his face left no room for refusal. She obediently went still, allowing him to come closer. She tentatively lifted her eyes to his, and the icy blue of his gaze consumed everything around her. The transition in her memories was sudden, as if Mikhail had rushed into them too quickly. The abrupt shift in scenery made her stomach churn, but her body dutifully repeated the actions she had lived through. Once again, she scanned through the folders, hurriedly took a picture, met the professor's terribly empty eyes. And Mikhail didn't like that stare. There was nothing in it. It was as if Malik had lost his essence for a moment, or shed his mask. He pulled himself out of the memory and spoke again, cold and firm. Audrey must not see Malik again. All right, of course. Malik doesn't seem like the kind of man who worships the beast. He seems like the kind who craves worship for himself. It's clear that he's playing some sort of game, and we're going to find out exactly what that game is. Is this the book you're looking for? Yes, and how Malik got a picture of it is a good question. Audrey stared at the symbols again, trying to figure out what the language that they even resemble. She failed. What's so valuable about this book? Who wrote it? Can you read the symbols? Why is it so important? Where could it be? I don't know if I can ask all the questions, but I'll go with the most important one first. Why is it so important? It holds a power that could save humanity. Okay, so you can't ask all of them. Who wrote this book? It was created by our god, Shepa. He wrote it to help humanity. Can you read the symbols? No. The language is written and is unfamiliar to me. How the hell are humans supposed to read it then? What if you ask the others in the house? I don't think Sheppa wanted the knowledge inside it to fall into the hands of the immortals. We can't read it. Weird, but okay. It was in the possession of humans because it was meant to be read by humans in a time of need. By someone worthy of its knowledge. That was God's will. But the order responsible for keeping it safe was wiped out. Now the book could be anywhere. What kind of information could be on this particular page? Unfortunately, I don't know. A new, pleasant feeling overtook her, a realization that the immortals needed humans. The chance to be useful, to contribute, loosened her tongue and made her bolder. If humans can read it, then we need to show it to them. We can't risk the book's information falling into the wrong hands. But only the worthy can read it, right? So anyone else, someone like me, wouldn't be able to comprehend it. He nodded. I can show it to someone I know. She's a cryptographer. Audrey. I know how it sounds, but what if this is the reason God brought me to you? You talked about a mission given to me. What if this is it? I helped you find the page. I'll help you understand it. Mikhail didn't even try to hide his doubts. They were written all over his face. She's not the kind of person to ask unnecessary questions. She knows how to keep a secret. Unexpectedly, he relented. He agreed so easily that Audrey sensed a catch. All right, invite her here. But don't tell anyone else in the house about this. You'll talk in my office. But first, I'll take a look at your friend. Of course. Fearing that he would change his mind, she turned to hurry into her room. Her desire to repay the kindness of the Astreans drove her forward. Audrey almost ran straight into Somnus as he unceremoniously flung the door open right in front of her. He ignored her completely, as if she wasn't even there, and walked over to Mikhail. He hissed in his typical manner. The spear has been stolen. The smile that split his face was perplexing. He meant the spear of Longinus, doesn't he? She froze in the doorway. Did the trap work? Yes. Let's see where it leads us. Excellent. Excellent? Audrey barely stopped herself from tugging on Somnus' sleeve. Excuse me, are you talking about the spear that could start the apocalypse? It's been stolen? They stole a copy of it. The real spear is with me. Somnus deigned to speak to her, and she immediately wished she could become invisible. It wasn't you who decided to try to kill Raphael again, was it? Audrey burned with shame and shook her head. Good. So it wasn't her who took the fake this time. It was Fel. Audrey thought it was bad enough to be reminded of her failed attempt on Raphael's life. She was wrong. The realization hit her like a suffocation. Viscous smoke. It filled her lungs, nearly choked her. Oh, damn, I was with her. Did I help her to steal the spear? Her naive attempt to find an excuse was limited to memory. But she took a stone, not the spear, so that she could get to hell to her family. Audrey imagined the demon's face. She remembered Fel's smile looming over her. She met me on the stairs, and she stood above me, as if she had returned to the basement. The more Audrey remembered, the less doubt remained. She betrayed us. The rabbit mutt stole the keys to the basement from me, like some petty thief. She staged that scene on purpose to get closer, then lunged at me like she was off her chain. He shook his head with a chuckle. Her teaching moment is over. It is time for her to learn her lesson. It's like he's been waiting for this. Her hand touched her neck instinctively, as if trying to loosen an invisible grip. Mikhail noticed her distress and turned his attention away from Somnus. Audrey, are you all right? I can't tell him that I was down there with her. Not now. But what if the stone she stole is important too? What if she really did only take that? If I confess, I'll incriminate myself too. Confess, because, yeah, it seems pretty important. No, I can't hide this information. There's far more at stake than my reputation. And if I must be punished for my mistake, so be it. She clenched her fist to stop them from trembling. She spoke surprisingly firmly and calmly. I was with her in the basement. I saw her walk through your trap. We thought as much. You left with her. Otter ignored his sarcastic tone and continued. Phil said she wanted to get to hell unnoticed, and to do that she needed some kind of stone. I thought that's what she was after. Did she show you what she took? Yes. She did show me a stone. She said it would transport her to her family. They exchanged glances, judging by the frozen expression on their faces. The information was indeed significant. Thank you for telling us, Audrey. Even Somnus looked at her with gratitude. The inability to admit one's mistakes is often costly. You have a trait not even all immortals possess. Good girl. Well, the ability to give compliments isn't exactly universal among immortals either. Oh, I'm surprised you didn't have one of those dog clickers, you know? I'll check the vault to give the other stones in case there's a trap. Good. She won't be able to outsmart us. You shared important information. This will affect the plot. Your relationship with the superiors has improved. BFD. It was clear that the immortals were about to have a serious discussion, and judging by Somnus's questioning look, they were waiting for her to leave them alone. May I go, Mikkel? Yes. Come back when you're ready. Audrey nodded. I hope I still have her number. Audrey rummaged through her entire closet and managed to find an old, battered notebook. There were only a few names on the pages she had scribbled on back in college. The phone number of the cryptographer she had met at the seminar was one of a dozen. What are the chances that she's in London right now? Audrey vaguely remembered that the woman wasn't from here. During their time together, she had learned little about the cryptographer's past. Audrey hadn't been eager to share her own either. It was probably that reluctance that had brought them together that day. Both women had sat in the back row. Or maybe it really wasn't a coincidence. As if to confirm the theory, I can't read that, but okay. Not only replied to her message, but was actually in London as well. She was intrigued by the ancient writings, or perhaps she just wanted to see an old acquaintance, and agreed to come. Perfect. I still have time to freshen up. Absorbed in her memories, Audrey walked over to the closet. She stared blankly at the clothes inside. If anybody happens to know what that person's name is, unless they fix it. Alright, what should I choose? I got sporty style. What's the black thing? It's so weird. Okay, whatever. It's like a belt, but then, yeah, anyway. Like the old days, airy white dress, long-awaited meeting. I don't like it. Something simple. We'll go with the long-awaited meeting. I now almost look like Wednesday Addams, but she would never be caught dead in white. I'm kidding, but you know, am I really though? Autumn. Ooh. Maybe she's worth it. Maybe she's Maybelline. I had to, leave me alone. What? How is winter the shortest of them all? Alright, I'm gonna go with Summer Dark. It's actually really pretty. Continue. Audrey lost herself in her thoughts of life's twists and turns. She leaned even further into the idea that everything had happened had a hidden meaning. We didn't just happen to end up at the seminar, sitting in the same row. They were essentially connected by a cryptography and psychiatry and a single pencil, the one she had forgotten, which turned out to be a neighbor's spare. Both women were attending a lecture on how people in the throes of psychosis often create their own unreadable, symbolic written codes. It's as if she was waiting for me to need her help, so she never left the city. That can't be a coincidence. Some time later. By the time the cryptographer arrived, the house had fallen into peaceful silence. The only witness to the guest's presence in Astrea was Mikhail, just as he had wanted. It's a pleasure to meet you. I don't know this word, so forgive me for not knowing her name. It's a Russian name, question mark? Or am I just losing my shit and I've suddenly lost the ability to read that particular name? Locum, you're losing the ability to read! The Archangel introduced himself and briefly held her outstretched hand. Not enough to make the hand shake weird, but enough to study her face carefully. Likewise, Mikhail. If you need anything, Audrey will be in the living room. All right, thank you. Mikhail seemed to finish his assessment and then left the two of them alone. Audrey set 2 cups on Mikhail's desk, one for tea for the guest and one with coffee for herself. Good girl. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to say Nen. Nen placed a small bundle of baked goods next to them. I didn't know what you'd like, so I brought cookies. Audrey didn't bore her with the questions about life. She got right to the point. She handed Nin her phone and tried to explain what was going on without going into too much detail. She realized almost immediately that it was impossible to explain it without sounding really bizarre. I can't just tell her about the impending apocalypse. This is a page from the book, written by a non-human capable of stopping the end of the world, that we're looking for. It's likely that these symbols can only be found inside. You're presenting the information carefully. I was reading that, but thank you. Are you trying to figure out if someone has a mental disorder wrote it? No, I'm sure everything in it has a meaning. Nin ran her eyes over the text first, then leaned closer and examined every letter. Every crack, every smudge, every tiny spot. At some point, she seemed to literally dissolve into the book. The tea grew cold. Audrey brewed another. She moved silently and kept glancing at her, but it didn't seem like the cryptographer would take her eyes off the screen for any reason, even if bombs began to explode around her. Next to the phone now lay a notebook and a pencil. The cryptographer occasionally jotted down some notes. There's a bit of a Latin in some parts here. Audrey jolted in surprise. Latin? The name of the book is mentioned here in Latin, Book of the Apocalypse. Audrey settled back into her chair and tried to come up with an explanation, but Nin didn't wait for one. She kept speaking. Alongside with this Latin line, there's a passage I can latch onto. I can match these sequences, but the spacing between the symbols just jumps around, as does their height. I think these might be numbers. She handed her the page from her notebook. These look like coordinates? Yes, but it only makes sense if I'm right about the numbers. A shiver ran through her. Audrey placed the discovery on the table and clasped her hands to hide her nervousness. You've helped me a lot. The woman smiled and finally turned her attention to the cup of fragrant tea. It seemed like a good idea to make some unrelated small talk, but all of Audrey's thoughts kept circling back to the information. Who in this house needs your help? Audrey didn't immediately understand. Help? Psychiatric help. Hearing someone mention her old profession felt strange, but it wasn't so far in the past that it didn't cause some internal conflict. I'm not here as a doctor. They hired me as a psychological evaluator. Instead of responding, she paused and took a sip of the now cold tea. Should I make another cup or heat this one up? No, this will do. I'm also the same way. I can drink warm, hot, or cold tea. Audrey froze. She was waiting for the direct question, but Nin chose her words more carefully. It's an unusual position. I think this kind of job only exists here in Astrea. I help my colleagues figure out if a person is ill or actually possessed. She hid her emotions behind another slow sip of tea. I must sound so strange. I know it seems like I've lost my mind and like I'm the one who needs help, but it's a little more complicated than that. Nin didn't push it. She expressed her opinion in one simple sentence. I never thought you'd be interested in this. To be honest, I've begun to regain my lost faith here, and it no longer brings me pain. Who do you usually work with? Mostly... I mean, technically it's not far off to say just people, however unusual entities. Technically also true. Hard to figure out, it's kind of true too. Alright, so I'm gonna go with just people. My first case involved someone hiding in a basement of his own house. The new tenant thought he was hearing a demon, and many people simply try to hide their crimes behind the veil of mysticism. I never thought I'd see you in a role like this. She spoke honestly, but without judgment. Her words made Audrey want to respond, just as openly, but she couldn't. Sometimes I can't believe it myself. The things that I've always avoided can hold me so tightly. Maybe it's not just things that keep you here, but people? A simple suggestion struck a chord. Audrey thought about it. Am I really trying to save humanity, or are my reasons far more personal? Audrey imagined the residents of Astrea. She pictured them as vividly as if they were standing right in front of her. She felt a rush of tenderness for the beings who had already become dear to her. Who among them has become so important to me that I've come to terms with the horrors happening around me? Attention! Your choice will determine your love interest in the story. And her heart whispered, David. As she imagined the curly-haired demon, Audrey smiled. She immediately wanted to see him. Nin noticed Audrey's deep contemplation and began to gather her things. I should go, Audrey. The evaluator nodded. Thank you. I promise when this is all over, we'll meet again, and I'll tell you everything. About the book, and about exactly what happens within Astrea's walls. But Audrey mentioned the book, and she paused briefly. Her gaze lingered on the picture. Does she want me to ask something? Audrey studied her thoughtful face, and it seemed like she was drawn to the mysteries yet to be uncovered. She finally shook off her momentary daze and smiled faintly. All right, I'll be waiting for our meeting. They ran into Mikhail at the doorway. The Archangel insisted on saying goodbye to the guest personally. He shook her hand in farewell and said, Next time, don't sit in the office. Okay. Take a walk in the garden. Look at the statue of Astrea, the one of our organization is named after. Whoa, so I guess some guests are welcome here after all. Audrey walked her to the gates and saw her off as she got into a cab. Then she returned. Where we'll probably never read her name ever again. So I just went with what you're saying, which was the N-E-N-H, I'm assuming. I don't know, that's what the characters look like. So I just was like, Nin. Right? Just N-E-N. Or N-I-N, whatever. 9-inch nails, I don't know. Anyway, Mikhail had already put the cups away and was waiting for her at the desk. Did you manage to learn anything? I don't know what's written in the rest of the book, but your god definitely left us a clue on this page. Audrey hurried towards him. She waved the sheet of paper in the air. And she deciphered it? Yes, she did. He looked at the sheet cautiously, as if afraid it might burn him. He took it in his hands. Numbers? Coordinates. We need to check this place as soon as possible. Audrey couldn't understand why the Archangel did not share her excitement. His face grew even darker, his eyes colder. Audrey will check the coordinates, but first we need to find Phil and figure out where she's taking the fake. As for the cryptographer, I'll ask you to not tell anyone in this house who deciphered these writings. Only we should know about this. I got it. Good. Let's go. We needed to gather everyone in the living room. So you don't even trust the people in the house. Interesting. Sometime later, the news that fell was no longer on their side immediately set the tone for the upcoming conversation. The Astrians sat in thoughtful silence, each processing this in their own way. Raphael's face reflected disappointment. Cassiel's showed anger. David's frustration, however, was clearly directed at the superiors. He kept throwing furious glances at them, but none of them looked saddened. I'm a little sad that Fell, turned state secrets. Do they not see it as that big of a loss? As soon as Fell leaves Malik, we'll go after her. We need to find out who she's taking this spear to. Furious stepped forward. He swept a menacing, fierce gaze over everyone. Your mission is nearing its end. It is the best-case scenario. We face a decisive battle. Be ready for it. A battle? Audrey had no doubt that she would not take part in it, but fear still gripped her body. They're immortals. Surely it won't be that easy to kill them. What's Fell's doing at the Professor? He's likely not just our informant. He may be pursuing some goals of his own. Maybe we should pay him a visit then. We'll figure everything out. But first, the spear. Raphael's voice echoed through the room with a soft, soothing murmur. And yes, David, enjoyers, I know I screwed up David's voice for a minute. My apologies, I had a brain fart. Raphael's voice echoed through the room like a soft, soothing murmur. We were prepared for this hundreds of years ago. I hoped Fell knows what she's doing. Mikhail had no doubts about that. She would not take the risk for nothing. She's endured the service for so many years, only now has she snapped. Audrey caught Mikhail's eye as he pulled a folded piece of paper out of his jacket pocket. We have another lead, but it's unverified. I need someone to go and check these coordinates. David snatched the paper first and entered the numbers into his phone. It's just a field by the look of it. There are no residential or industrial structures nearby. Where did this come from? That doesn't matter. Furious clicked his tongue in annoyance. If it didn't matter, then we have more important things to do. Get ready. If Fell doesn't leave the Immortal's office in an hour, we'll fly to her. The fact that he got involved with the creature already makes him an accomplice. It doesn't matter if he gave her the information or just slept with her. Audrey was glad that she was sitting instead of standing. She pressed her knees together. Her fear and for the others made her dizzy. Why am I just a human? Why can't I fly with them, help them? I'll check the coordinates, Audrey. You're coming with me. Leaving you alone isn't the best idea either. It might not be safe in Astrea without all of us here. Every word spoken in this room made Audrey feel worse and worse. Why with him, of all people? Very well. With God's help, it will all end today and we'll return home. The best thing I can do for everyone is not argue. But the urge to argue was unbearable, and Audrey timidly raised her hand. If everything ends well, what will happen to the agency, me, all of you? That's a very good question. I'm going to go with... to me. You will return to your normal life and live out your short days in peace and quiet. Just like Harry. Wonderful, isn't it? Oh, you can ask all of them. Never mind. Okay. To the agency. The minor mishaps you have encountered in the line of duty are no reason for immortals to live among humans. If we prevent the apocalypse, there will no longer be a need for Astrea as a cover. What if another siren or possessed person shows up? There's no need to worry. We'll send someone. To all of you, will you leave Earth? Of course. We have our own world. Mikhail has been awaited in heaven for a long time, and if David behaves, he'll go there too. Cassiel has no business being here alone either. He belongs in hell. I'm going to strangle Vel with my own hands, so she has no future. And Raphael? Raphael will finally fulfill his purpose. Will he die? She couldn't bring herself to say the terrible words out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. They're immortals, damn it. There has to be another way. Why send one of them to the slaughter? The possible death of all things seemed absurd, and yet Audrey felt its faint breath. Beneath its whisper, a fire ignited in her, the desire to fight for life, her own and everyone else's. Unexpectedly, even to herself, she sprang to her feet. So what's your plan? Find the beast, throw Raphael into its maw? Is this the glorious battle you have all gathered for? Furia suddenly roared with a laughter at her outburst. No, you impudent little thing. There will be a battle. First, we'll slaughter all the beast's followers. Mortals, immortals, monsters, loyal dogs. We will kill anyone who chose the wrong side. And then, if the beast dares to show itself, we'll use the spear. Not the one you tried to steal, but the real one. The kill will drive it into the creature's heart, and only in the event that our plans fail will we throw Raphael into the beast's maw. But if you have suggestions, I'm ready to hear them. After all, you fought more battles than we have. Audrey remained silent. Somnus answered for her. You have an hour, Audrey. Get ready. We have to do some flying. I'm coming with you in case something goes wrong. To her relief, no one objected with this. Somnus didn't look pleased, but he nodded nonetheless. As you wish. Everyone slowly began to disperse to their rooms to prepare for battle. Audrey froze in place. She watched them with alarmed eyes. She didn't want to believe that the situation had become so serious. But her heart ached. It whispered anxiously that today might be the last time she would see any of them. Why, Vel? Why did you need the spear? David lingered with her for a moment. He touched her hand gently and pulled her a little closer. Be careful, little witch. Audrey couldn't hold back anymore. She wrapped her arms around his waist and buried her face in his chest. She asked in a muffled voice, How are you going to prepare for battle? Maybe I'll change clothes. I wouldn't want the beast to wrinkle my favorite shirt. She tried to pull back to give him a light punch in the shoulder, but he held her tighter. I'll be fine, as long as you stay safe. He kissed the top of her head and let her go. Audrey bit her lip as she watched him walk away. Her soul was restless, but there was nothing she could do about it. Some time later. This time, the emptiness of the house felt different. It was heavy with worry. Audrey hurried to leave, following the Astreans. Cassiel and Somnus were already waiting for her in the yard. Audrey hoped she would be allowed to choose. She stood beside the demon and studied his wings carefully. You'll fly with me. Cassiel will go ahead and check the coordinates first. Audrey remembered how much Somnus resented any bond between her and the Astrians. She decided not to set Cassiel up. We'll have to fly high and fast to stay out of sight of the mortals. You don't have experience with that, do you? She shook her head. Somnus continued. In that case, I'll put you to sleep during our journey. At first, she wanted to protest, but then she realized that she hardly wanted to share this exciting moment with Somnus. All right. In that case, sweet dreams, Audrey. See you on the other side. Somnus stepped closer and unceremoniously scooped her into his arms. The last thing she remembered was his hazy eyes. Great, she gets to dream about this while we're going. Audrey woke up on solid ground. Somnus was gripping her shoulders tightly, keeping her upright. Are you all right? No, I thought this was a dream. Continue. I think so? It's exactly from her dream, if you remember. Audrey pulled away gently and tried to gather her thoughts. Where are we? The field looked familiar. A lone tree swayed welcomingly, as if greeting an old friend. Somnus confirmed her thoughts. This is the place from the dreams the beast sent you. It told me something about it, but I can't remember what. We should all be careful. Stay here, I'll take a look around. Somnus glanced at her with a smile. It's almost funny that it was you who brought us here. Cassiel moved further away. Somnus, on the other hand, stepped closer. Could this be it? And today, not only will our purpose be fulfilled, but yours as well. The unkind gleam in the immortal's eyes made her recoil. A little guiding star. Glad to be of service. The sky grew darker, as if unhappy with the uninvited guests. But the wind grew still, waiting for the storm to come. And it wasn't long before an intense bolt of lightning split the heavy clouds. How are we going to fly back? Audrey called out to Cassiel, but her voice was drowned out by a clap of thunder. Shivering, she walked towards him, but her next shout was also swallowed by the deafening roar. Where's the lightning? She tilted her head back to look at the heavy black cloud that threatened to crash down upon them. The persistent rumbling roar repeated itself. Only then did Audrey realize it wasn't coming from above, but from below. The ground shuddered, then began to quake violently. It was as if the elements had gone mad, hammering the earth, but not the sky, but from the very depths of hell. Oh. No! The tree! Cassiel reacted instantly. He shot into the air. The ground beneath her feet rapidly split open. Her legs slid across the surging surface as if it were water. With no solid ground to stand on, Audrey clung desperately to the crumbling edge. Her hands clutched prickly grass. Audrey was afraid to look down. She was certain that, at the best, a quick death awaited her there. She looked up frantically as if salvation was somewhere in the sky. Is this the end? Has the apocalypse already begun? Hold on, mortal. Thin, but impossibly strong fingers dug painfully in her shoulders, pulling her upward. Audrey had never been so relieved to see that pale face. What's going on? Somnus didn't have time to respond. The black canvas of the sky above them cracked, torn apart by a blinding whirl of light. Path of Faith. The aliens have come. Hope! I'm sorry. Hope flared through her. What if God had finally taken pity on them and come down to hell? God doesn't need to come to this mortal plane. Just shut up. Shut up. We're saved. But it was Fel who emerged from the burst of light. She was followed by a black-winged immortals that Audrey did not recognize. Hold on tighter. Audrey clung to his bony frame as the immortal dove downward. The ground crumbled on all sides. Sand was getting into her hair and under her clothes. Audrey shut her eyes to protect them. Somnus set her on her feet and took off again. Find a safe place away from the fissures and hide. We'll find you later. Move! Without waiting for her response, Somnus flew back into the chasm overhead. Audrey froze. Hide, but where am I? Stay and see what's happening above. Look for a safe place. I don't know. I want to say... I actually don't know. You know what, YOLO? I'm just gonna go with... stay and see what's happening. I'm actually kind of curious. If I die, I die. The hole over her head was enormous. She could clearly see Somnus above the field. Fel was speeding towards him. She sliced through the air with her massive crimson wings. Ooh, pretty. A thin golden whip appeared in Somnus's hands. A bloodthirsty smile twisted his face. Okay. Flames danced on Fel's fingers. Audrey sensed disaster and watched their every move. She ignored the sand spilling onto her head. The whirlpool of light tore the sky apart, but this time familiar faces emerged. The stones came in handy. They teleported straight after her. It was only then when the Astreans had appeared near the demon that Audrey realized she had been holding her breath. Somnus lowered his whip. Fel darted away from David, who lunged at her. They won't hurt her. They can't. Next to your choices, Somnus didn't have time to hurt Fel. Another familiar figure flew over the fissure, and everything fell into place. Malik's assistant looks to be a demon? ? Audrey stepped back into the shadows and looked around nervously. I hope she didn't see me. Or he didn't see me. Where do I run? I mean, I don't know. She was surrounded by walls that were completely indifferent to her plight. There were high, ancient arches adorned with human remains. How old is this place? How the hell did you get here? That is my question. They don't explain how the hell we went from a field with fissures to underground Hogwarts tunnel with human remains as arches. RC, I have questions. This was not the time to think about how long the beast had been weaving its web beneath their feet. Audrey sprinted towards the nearest passage to take cover from the fissure. Again, how did we get here? She only stopped when she was completely out of breath. The endless arches unnerved her. They resembled the gaping mouths of toothless voids leading into the darkness. It's like a labyrinth. What if they don't find me? Audrey barely managed to calm her pounding heart. I need to stay calm and figure out where this breeze is coming from. Her senses weren't helping. Audrey looked around for a clue. She pulled a heavy metal torch from the wall and froze in the middle of the passage. The fire flickered obediently, showing her the way. Let this be an exit or fissure I can reach. Audrey started running again. The monotonous walls began to change. Remains appeared more frequently. She stared at her feet and forced herself not to look around. But that didn't make her feel any less uneasy. After just a few arches, a thin crimson stream appeared beneath her feet. God, how much blood is there, and whose is it? You know all those remains? Just saying. The indistinct metallic stench made her nauseous. Audrey ran alongside the stream. It seemed to flow with her. The bloody water led her to a room whose purpose was obvious. Thick iron bars lined the walls. On one side, the prison was empty. On the other, people were huddled behind bars, dirty, frightened, emaciated. They were herded into a cage like animals. As soon as they saw her, the people began to shout and cry for help. The din of voices overlapped, making it almost impossible to understand, but only one word came through clearly, over and over again. Help! Help! God, who are all these people? Approach them? Keep your distance. I'm gonna keep my distance. Audrey stopped a little farther away. She tried to shout over their voices. What happened to you? The people screamed over each other. The demons took us. They wandered the labyrinths and built up their appetites. Then they come here and devour our flesh, drink our blood. Help us, don't let us die. Growing panic robbed them of their words. They began shrieking, whining, howling. Audrey was horrified at her own thought. At that moment, they truly did look like cattle being led to slaughter. This is how the followers of the beast see us. She didn't want to drown in that feeling, but it completely overwhelmed her. What will happen to humanity if immortals decide to descend to Earth? If they turn their attentions to us, how will they see us? I mean, by everything lore-wise that I've read, every movie, every show, everything that I've ever read, we're nothing compared to them. It's an ego thing, don't at me. Fear twisted within her instead of reverent awe. We'd better not pray or call out to them. Let them stay in heaven. The people pressed against the bars, their numbers growing. A few turned into dozens. I mean, look at Somnus, for example. There are so many. Where did they all come from? Why aren't their faces on every post in our city? Why didn't we search for these victims of the beast? Ari suddenly realized a simple truth. The Astrians were only pursuing their ultimate goal. They sought out victims like her only to find the beast, not to save innocent souls. No matter what they say, they see us the same way. Angels, demons, Astrians, the beast. If they weren't so lonely, if they met me here instead of at home, would they look at me or pass me by? Audrey caught echoes of prayers, pleas for salvation, made her let out a nervous, hysterical laugh. I need to calm down. Right now, I'm overwhelmed with fear, pain, anger. I honestly don't know. I want to say anger. I mean, this is complete and utter BS, and then also pain for seeing something. I'm gonna go with anger. Everything inside of her burned. She wanted to scream, to pound her fists on the rusty bars. She wanted to drive all the winged creatures who serve the beast in the same cages and strip them of the sky. How would they be any different from us if their wings were torn off and their freedom taken from them? There's no place for that feeling now. Not here. Audrey took a quick look around. There must be something here. Oh, no. I don't have enough. Okay. Not enough. Okay, so I failed the was it empathy? Or, well, no, it was faith, right? Yeah, no, it was faith. Well, I failed the faith thing. Sorry, I use this thing called my brain. Continue. Think for yourself. No, they're too frightened. I won't be able to get their attention. I need to think on my own. Audrey stepped away from the bar. She tried to see where the stream led. Yep. Okay. There has to be some other way. You don't have enough. Come on, I was 3 off. Listen. Hey, psst. Skepticism, right? I believe it's skepticism. Can I borrow 3 points? just 3. Just 3. That's all I needed to save people. I don't know. Search for a key. Her desperate attempts to find a key in the neighboring rooms were fruitless. There was nothing resembling a back room where something like that might be kept. In desperation, Audrey returned. I'll promise them that I'll come back here with the others. I'll mark the way back somehow and lead them out. But she didn't have time to give them hope before a deafening grinding sound filled the room. What's going on? The floor beneath the cell split open. There was a thunderous crash of heavy metal plates against stone walls. The people screamed one last time. Their voices were swallowed by the grinding, screeching roar, like massive gears turning. God. Audrey covered her ears with her hands. Several endless seconds later, everything fell into terrifying silence. She approached the bars, slowly, but couldn't see where the prisoners had fallen. I can't see the bottom. I can't see what happened to them. Her unspoken question was answered by the heavy smell of blood that filled the room. Audrey staggered back. She nearly fell into the crimson stream that had suddenly widened. Trying not to think about why the stream had grown so quickly, Audrey fled to the now empty room. You failed to save the people. This will affect the plot. I was 3 points off. Just, bite me. Anyway, the heart-wrenching screams refused to leave her mind. Dazed, Audrey stumbled through the labyrinth of identical corridors. She no longer reacted to the flickering flame or the breeze. Her entire body was stiff from the tear she had experienced. So many people died. Dozens of people. As if in punishment, her feet led her to the place where there was no longer any point in hiding. This place looks fun. Audrey found herself in a vast hall with high ceilings. How far underground am I? Walls adorned with skulls towered in front of her. On one of them, Audrey recognized the neatly arranged symbol of the beast. Blood trickled slowly down it, like a waterfall, and collected in a groove on the floor. How could we live our lives and not know what was happening beneath our feet? Because people live in blissful ignorance. In the very center of the horrifying room, surrounded by a black-winged follower, stood Malik. Audrey, you never cease to amaze me. She wanted to reply that her surprise appearance couldn't compare to his, not even close, but her teeth were chattering too much. It felt like she had been dragged back to the church where they were supposed to spill her blood. She saw more fronds in the faces of the demons. You really can't escape fate, can you? So you're the beast. Malik burst out laughing, but answered quite sincerely. No, Audrey, I am not the beast. But you serve him? This sentence did not amuse him. He raised his chin proudly. I serve only myself. But to answer your question, should you have asked but didn't, yes, we are on the same side. Tell me, darling, how did you manage to find this place? Did you decipher the lines from the book by yourself, or did someone help you? Malik moved towards her predatorily. This must remain a secret from him. Stay silent. Audrey pressed her lips together. Malik spread his into a smile. Don't be afraid. I'll get everything I need out of you painlessly. Audrey didn't get the chance to answer him. The guests Malik had been waiting for finally arrived. Through the hole in the ceiling, the Astrians flew in one by one. They were battered and exhausted from the battle. Audrey found each of them with her gaze, even Somnus and Furious. Only then did her pounding heart calm. They're all right. They're alive. Each of the Astrians found the evaluator with their eyes. First, they made sure she was unharmed, and only then did they rush towards Malik. The winged creatures who had delayed them above followed close behind. The immortals that had been standing on the ground soared upward, blocking the Astrians' path to their master. Welcome, friends. I have brought you to the beast, as promised. This will be a personal meeting, one worth of all the memories you have. Malik spread his arms wide and slowly backed up to the wall as if to corner himself. Who are you and why are you helping him? I help people, Mikhail. And by the way, I do so much more than you do, Archangel. I bring them a new faith. Audrey tensely watched the immortals hovering in the air. Everyone froze, waiting for a signal. The Astrians waited for one from Mikhail. The acolytes, demons, fell from Malik. What are the odds of our leaders negotiating and preventing a battle? Thomnus landed beside her. He looked at her through his hazy eyes. Couldn't you find a better place to hide, Audrey? Now, stay put until this is over. I've covered you with a dome. He snapped. Enough! As you wish. The smile faded from his lips. The shadows dancing on the walls slithered towards Malik like snakes. Kill Raphael. You know, everybody's been trying to kill that guy, knowing his purpose. Okay, screen's black. Oh, okay. In an instant, all the immortals sprang into action. Those who did not attack threw themselves to the defense of the angel, who could not waste his strength in vain. The blood-soaked walls came to life. One by one, faces contorted and silent screams emerged from them. This time, Mikhail was ready. His sword appeared in his hands, blinding in its golden radiance. He soared into the air and disappeared from sight. Audrey wanted to rush to the immortal's aid, but she understood all too well that it would bring them more peace if she remained safe. The body of a demon killed by one of the Astrians flew past her. Audrey recoiled, but the corpse bounced off the dome and fell nearby. No one can enter my sanctuary, but I can't leave it either. Not that you know of. Audrey tried to spot... I don't know, Cassiel. I'm taking a risk by just going top to bottom. The demon fought furiously against his attacking brethren. Steel met steel, ringing, sparking. The swordplay resembled a dance. It was so beautiful that Audrey was entranced by the sight. She turned away only when Cassiel's blade severed his opponent's arm. Okay, so you can... Okay. I was worried, but... She couldn't. His figure was lost amidst the demons surrounding him on all sides. Audrey tried to spot David. David held Fell's hands, preventing her from unleashing her power. Audrey prayed he wouldn't hurt her, but it seemed he had no intention of fighting her. For a moment, he looked like David was urging her to flee the battlefield. Somnus and Furious. Furious fought Malik's assistant, whose absence she hadn't even noticed. Somnus tried to get to Raphael, but kept glancing around, searching for Fell. And lastly, Mikhail. The distorted faces of the risen dead melted under the Archangel's divine radiance. Mikhail drove them back, forcing his way towards Malik, but Malik wasn't trying to flee. He rose above the ground on the bodies of his army and waited. Mikhail hurried to meet him. Hundreds of bloodied hands behind Malik reached for the Archangel, but the divine light wouldn't let them touch him. Mikhail hovered across from him. He let his enemy have the last word. Do what you must, Archangel. But even if you kill me, you will not win. Not gonna lie, I'm saving this one. Hold on. Mikhail raised the spear and pinned Malik to his army. Malik gurgled. Come on, Mikhail. I know you can do better. Make it hurt. Malik gripped the shaft of the spear, but instead of pulling it out, he shoved it deeper with a harsh jerk. A thin trickle of blood came from the corner of his mouth, but his face remained serene. The tip pierced through him and embedded itself into the wall. And as the steel stained with his blood made a hole, primordial darkness began to pour out in a dense mass. Malik smiled. His final words spoken and no one spilled from his lips with a bubbling, choking sound. Welcome home, Father. The darkness strained to break free. Its tendrils tugged at the spear, driving it deeper into Malik's body. Audrey felt that somewhere within it something was gathering, an ancient tear, the origin of all fears. It pulsed and grew, filling everyone's souls. Is this the end? Her helplessness in the face of higher beings tormented her. She wanted to help them somehow, but at the same time she wanted to hide from their overwhelming power. Mikhail tore the spear from Malik's chest. Deprived of their leader, the dead once again merged with the wall, but the darkness spilling forth continued to expand. It wrapped itself tenderly around the dying shell of its liberator, as if trying to absorb and bury him. An inhuman, soul-shattering roar rang out, and Audrey remembered it. She remembered her dream. This is the beast. Mikhail looked to Raphael and shouted, "Seal the breach!" The thing that the Archangel called the breach was expanding far too quickly, and Raphael flew towards the darkness. This isn't the beast itself. Yet. That means Raphael won't die, right? The angel flew too close. The darkness lunged at him like a ravenous predator, forgetting everything else. Raphael beat his wings, resisting, releasing light. But this time it wasn't directed at the followers who begged for the beast's mercy. The light concentrated within him. Raphael's eyes glowed too brightly. The darkness dragged him deeper, and he beat his wings again. Thin cracks ran across the angel's pale skin. The light gained strength and burst forth, hungry for blood. And then it erupted from him with a desperate cry of unbearable pain. The last thing Audrey remembered was the angel's lifeless body plummeting down like a stone. Okay, I'll give you a 4 on this one. We need to talk. I'm just saying. Curse you. I know. Had I gone with skepticism... Quick, let's restart. No, I'm kidding. 1 faith, 3 skepticism, 2 reputation, diamonds. Okay, after completing that, a new season awaits. Congratulations on completing all the season's episodes. More love, adventure, and romance await you now in the first episode of the next season. Oh, shit. Come on, you gotta say you're impressed with, like, just raw, just filtered, oh, shit. Fine, I accept. Anyway. Alright, so without further ado, hey, especially if you're looking forward to season 3, episode 1, and other episodes, ? And then also the other content that I also do of RC, make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Also leave a comment down below letting me know your thought. Were you able to save the humans? If so, let me know what happened. Like, was there a difference? The whole 9 yards. I love knowing. I really love this app because I like knowing that there's differences, that there are things that matter, and damn it, I was 3 points off. Let me know. Are you guys more towards the side of skeptical? Are you more towards the side of faith? Did you guys, like, have the same issue as me? As you kind of, like, chose, like a human would, of both, right? I mean, if I would have been more faith-based, or, flip the script, more skeptical-based, we could have done it, right? But I do like that your choices do actually matter. So yeah, it's also nice that, you know, if you went heavy on skeptical or you went heavy on faith, that you would have been able, I'm assuming, to save them. Um, Again, let me know what happened. Like, how did it matter in the plot? Be appreciated. Aside from that, oh shit! Like, I'm looking forward to season 3. So I really like this book. I know a lot of you pretty much share the same thoughts as me. So again, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Catch you all later. Peace out.